Hi, hello everyone. How are you? Can you all hear me? I cannot see you, but I can read you. So if you can type on the chat box, yes. Thank you, Juliana. Thank you. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, thank you. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So welcome. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. We are also streaming the webinar on Facebook Live in Macmillan Argentina Facebook page. In case you want to tell any colleague who couldn't register, please do it. I'm Mariela Burani. I'm one of Macmillan Education Academic Consultants here in Argentina. And again, welcome to today's webinar. And before I introduce the topic and our speakers, let me tell you something. We have a little surprise, yes? We'll be holding a raffle, yes? Some books you're going to love. But as fortunately, we have a huge audience today. We won't be doing it now, yes, at the end of the session, but we'll be carrying it out the next days. So to enter the raffle, you'll need to take a screenshot or photo of the webinar and post it on your Instagram or Facebook account. Mention us, don't forget that, and then we'll draw the winners from there. Yes? Is it clear how we are going to? Oh, sorry. Here am I. Yes? We are going to do that. Yes? So please mention us on your social media. Perfect. Yes. Take a screenshot of, not me, please don't do it. Yes. Please take a screenshot of the speakers, of Gabriela and Paola. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Now, yes. Let's get started. Yes. Our talk today is Comprehensive Sexuality Education, CSE, and On the Pulse Second Edition. On the Pulse Second Edition is our new series for higher primary or secondary, based on the Pulse, a best-selling title, but with more than 40% of updated content. And one of the areas that we felt had to be addressed when updating the content, apart from the reading, the grammar, the photos, projects, and everything that we have added to the series, was comprehensive sexuality education, yes, or ESE. Not only because it is a law, but also because it is a right for our students. And it is vital to include diverse topics in the classroom if we really want to create an inclusive, gender-equal society. As Paola and Gabriela mentioned in the abstract for this webinar, the incorporation of CSE in our classes favors a learner-centered approach and offers opportunities for students to broaden their understanding of the world they live in, make informed decisions, and navigate the world as they lead healthy and safe lives. So this is the rationale behind our decision as a publisher to include this. And I'm very proud that we are doing it, yes, because as I told you before, it is an issue that needs to be addressed now. Yes, it is something that we have to start including now. So now I'm going to introduce our speakers. Paola Kosu is a teacher of English and teacher educator. She holds a BA in English and a degree in CSE. Her interests are CSE, professional development, and didactics in higher education. And Gabriela Broom is a teacher of English and a teacher educator. She holds a diploma in gender and feminist movements and a degree in comprehensive sexuality education. Her main interests are CSE in the English class and initial teacher education. Yes. So now I'm going to welcome Paola and Gabriela, if they can join us. Yes, hello from Tucumán, La Rioja, Santa Fe. There was somebody from Rosario. I'm from Rosario as well. I'm working from Rosario, Santa Fe, Vancouver. Great. Wow. Yes. Hello, everyone. Yes, we have a huge audience today. And I think this is because the topic we need to start addressing this topic as soon as possible. Yes. Okay, so now enough of my voice. Remember to take a screenshot and post it on your social media to enter the raffle. I will see you at the end. And now, Paola and Gabriela, all yours. Everyone, enjoy the webinar. See you later.
Okay, right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mari, for the introduction. And hello, everybody. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Well, I am Paola Kosu, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
And I am Gabriela, and my pronouns are also she, her, and hers.
Well, both of us, as Mari said, are teachers of English. Both of us are teacher educators and comprehensive sexuality education advocates. And also, both of us are from Junín, which is a city in the northwest part of Buenos Aires province. And I see some people from Junín there, right? We have people from Junín, from Bahía Blanca, from Punta Alta. I was born in Punta Alta. From Longchamps, Vane, from Córdoba, well, from Canada, right? From Tucumán, Entre Ríos, General Pinto, Mari,
Lincoln.
Okay, Santa Cruz, Cava. Okay, well, a huge audience, as Mari said before. So we have been invited by Macmillan to create a booklet on comprehensive sexuality education that includes ideas to work with on the Pulse second edition, right? Which is basically what we will be sharing with you today. We are really excited about the invitation and very proud, and we celebrate that such an important publishing house as Macmillan is taking the first steps in the publishing world to incorporate comprehensive sexuality education in their course books. We do celebrate that. So let's get started. Now that we know where you are from, that we have been reading that in the chat box, let me tell you about our agenda today. All right. We are going to start by making a brief introduction to comprehensive sexuality education. Then we will be sharing we will be introducing rather some key concepts central to CSE. And we will be looking at ways of practically applying those concepts. We will be sharing ideas, strategies, and resources to incorporate CSE into the different levels of on the Pulse second edition, and also in your lesson plans as well. And as we do all this, we will be reflecting upon the importance of comprehensive sexuality education, right? So this is everything we will be doing today. You might agree with us, right, that the word CSE or SE is on everybody's lips these days. Everybody talks about CSE or SE, and we also see teachers in different Facebook groups asking for lesson plans that include SE or material to work with CSE, right? But yet, some teachers might be still afraid of incorporating comprehensive sexuality education into their lesson plans, and that fear, that anxiety might stem probably from the word sexuality, or rather the conceptions, right, that we have about sexuality. So it's important that we agree on key terms, on central terms, right, before we move on. So the first one that we need to agree on is the word sex. Okay, so now I will ask you to write in the chat box one word, any word that comes to your mind when you read the word sex. Any word that you associate with the word sex. Okay.
Okay, so people say gender, Netflix, responsibility, identity, love, enjoyment, pleasure, universal. Oh, it's too fast, I'm sorry. Freedom, feelings, taboo, biological issues, connection, porn, taboo, rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
Yeah. Gender. Okay, good.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
You are too many.
So, yeah. So, sex refers to whether a person is female, male, or intersex. okay? It's biological, it's physiological, right? It's the sex characteristics that are used to categorize people when we are born into, as I said before, male, female, or intersex. And also, sex is an abbreviation for sexual intercourse, all right? Now, let's do the same, exactly the same, but this time with the word sexuality, all right? So let's write in the chat box any word that you associate with the word term sexuality. Freedom.
Identity, yes. Gender expression, diversity, choice, intimacy, desire, decision. Oh, affection, preference, choice, social orientation, responsibility, identity, practice, preference, private, love, tastes, freedom,
condition. Okay. Okay, fantastic. All right, great. So sexuality refers to the total expression of who we are as human beings. All of us here are sexual beings, right? Our sexuality begins at birth and ends at death. And our sexuality includes our attitudes, our values, our knowledge, and behaviors. And the way we express this sexuality, our sexuality, is influenced by a variety of factors, right? Such as families, culture, society, faith, and beliefs. According to the UN and its different agencies, sexuality is defined as a fundamental aspect of human life. It has many dimensions, right? As we can see, it has physical dimensions, psychological, spiritual, social, economic, political, right? Sexuality, yes, here we have the different aspects of sexuality. Sexuality cannot be understood without reference to gender, as some of you said there in the chat box. And diversity is a key characteristic of sexuality. So if we agree that sexuality involves all these dimensions, then we can agree as well that the word comprehensive is key. And that is why we speak of comprehensive sexuality education or educación sexual integral, right?
Okay, thank you, Pao. Now that we have seen what sexuality involves and that we know that it's much more than sex, let's see what a comprehensive sexuality education is. Okay, of course, we have all, or most of us, had sex ed at school. It has always been in the curriculum, but it was limited to topics such as anatomy, reproduction, and sometimes sexually transmitted infections, okay? But now that we have this more comprehensive definition of sexuality, the focus has shifted to empowering our students to become active citizens. And we will be doing this by providing them with tools to develop critical thinking and also to make informed decisions, but not only about their sexual health, but also other aspects. So this is key. CSE, or Comprehensive Sexuality Education, continues to include these topics, but goes beyond a biological standpoint. And it includes a wider range of topics, such as relationships, rights, like children's rights, human rights, gender violence, women empowerment throughout history, gender diversity, body diversity, self-protection, consent, bodily autonomy, and also the inclusion of those people who have been systematically excluded in history, okay? So we'll be sharing with you some practical ideas to include these topics in your lessons, yes? Okay, let's see what the National Curricular Guidelines in Argentina, or Lineamientos Curriculares Nacionales, say about CSE or ESI. This is important, okay? They say, comprendemos a la ESI como un espacio sistemático de enseñanza-aprendizaje que promueve saberes y habilidades para la toma de decisiones conscientes y críticas en relación con el cuidado del propio cuerpo, las relaciones interpersonales, el ejercicio de la sexualidad y los derechos. Los contenidos son abordados desde las distintas áreas y disciplinas e incluye situaciones de la vida cotidiana presentes en las aulas y en nuestras escuelas. So, to summarize, CSE is, as Graciela Morgade says, everything that happens to us. And this is key because comprehensive sexuality education goes beyond devoting one day, 1 week, one project to dealing with CSE content at school. Okay? Okay, before we move to the practical part of this session, we will try to answer some of the most frequently asked questions about CSE. And this is also included in the booklet that accompanies, it's a digital booklet, that accompanies On the Pulse 2nd edition. Okay, so the first question has to do with the law. What does the law establish? What does the SE law establish in Argentina? Yes, well, the law was passed in 2006, yes, and it includes this more comprehensive definition of sexuality that Pau mentioned before, with all these many aspects, and it also establishes the right of all students in Argentina to receive comprehensive sexuality education in all educational institutions, both private and state-run, and at all levels, right? In other words, what this law does is to further reinforce the notion that all students in Argentina are subjects of law, subjects of rights. And if we are to understand sexuality as a right that is key to exercising responsible and respectful citizenship, it is very important, it is paramount that we as teachers guarantee this right. Okay, let's go to the second question that has to do with content. Okay, now when we are planning our lessons and we want to include CSE content, we can always resort to the national curricular guidelines that I mentioned before. Now Mariela is going to share the link to the guidelines so you can download them, okay? This is a document created by the Federal Council of Education in 2008, and it provides curricular guidelines for each level of education and also topics, yeah, for the different areas or subjects at school, but not in the case of foreign languages, okay? But as we said before, all CSE topics are related to our everyday life and therefore are relevant to our students' needs and interests. So we can easily bring them into our classrooms, okay? In the booklet that accompanies on the Pulse 2nd edition, you will find a summary of topics. We created a chart, yes, for every educational level. But when you read the whole document, you will notice that certain topics are common to all levels, kinder, primary, secondary, but their treatment and complexity as well vary according to the different ages. Yeah, such topics might be family configurations or body parts and consent and autonomy, right? Okay, now let's move on to the next question that has to do with, well, how can I make sure that whenever I'm designing, I'm planning my lessons, I take a comprehensive approach, right? So the comprehensive sexuality education program in Argentina features 5 axes, 5 intertwined axes that help us make sure that we are approaching the topic we have chosen in a comprehensive way, right? Now we will give you an overview of the axes, but in the booklet you will find a link to the document that contains a full description of the axes. Okay, let me tell you that they are not ordered by importance, okay? They are all important. And well, one of these axes is that of acknowledging gender perspective. And this has to do with problematizing the conceptions about what is considered feminine and what is considered masculine, and also questioning the power relations that emerge from these conceptions, right? And it also has to do with bringing into the classroom the concept of gender equality, because we have to aim at reaching equality for all people, regardless of their gender. Pau will talk about problematizing later. Another axe is that of respecting diversity. This involves embracing all kinds of diversity as an essential characteristic of society. We are all different, and that is what makes us unique. So we, teachers, should work in our classes with the aim of making diversity the norm and not the exception.
All right, let's go on with the other axe, that is valuing affectivity. And this axe involves acknowledging that emotions are part of human interaction. But this does not necessarily or only mean asking our students how they feel today or what makes them feel angry, sad, or happy, if the purpose is just practicing vocabulary, right? When this axe tells us that emotions are part of interactions, of human interaction, it means that some tensions and conflicts might occur when we interact with each other. And what this axe tells us is that we should first acknowledge these tensions and work with them so that values such as solidarity and empathy and respect, right, are valued. And this axe also invites us to talk about topics such as consent, as Gabi said before, so that we help prevent any form of coercion, right? The following one is exercise our rights. And this has to do with what Gabi said before, that our students, children, and adolescents are subjects of law, right, sujetos de derecho, and that we, teachers and adults, are guarantors of those rights, right? We are talking about children's rights and human rights, that we must know, we must be familiar with those rights, because we cannot guarantee and we cannot fight for what we don't know, all right? So rights can be the very content of our lessons as well. And the last one, that is taking care of the body, involves looking at the body and health from a more comprehensive and also critical perspective. Again, it's not just asking our students whether they have healthy habits or talking about healthy food and unhealthy food, which is okay, but what this axe is telling us is to reflect on the representations of body, of the different bodies, right? Social representations of the body, and also to look at health as a right, all right? We will be giving you ideas to incorporate all these axes later on.
Yes, of course. And well, in practice, these axes overlap. And as we can work with one topic from the perspective of 1, 2, or 3, or maybe the 5 axes. Maria Elena is asking in the chat if there is any book, any Macmillan book to teach sexuality. Well, Maria Elena, the ideas we're going to be sharing later, well, in 2 or 3 minutes, are based on the series On the Pulse, second edition, okay? In the booklet, you will also find, apart from the ideas to work with the course books, you will find a project, yes, a simple, doable project for each level of the course book, yes, and it is framed within one of these axes, okay? And now we will move on to the last question, and then we go to the practical part that you are all waiting for, okay? And this has to do with CSE being only curricular content. Well, definitely CSE is content, right? That we can teach together with or through language, and that content should be culturally relevant, context and age appropriate, right? But it's not, CSC, it's not just content. Yes, there are more ways in which we can incorporate CSC into our classes and into our classrooms. Yes, CSC also involves attitudes, behaviors, and biases. And this calls on teachers to take on the challenge of constantly reflecting upon and addressing those personal biases we all have, because we are all human beings. I will give you one example. We can reflect on how we address families at the time of sending a note home. Do we say, señores padres, or do we say, queridas familias? What's the difference? There is a difference, right? Even if we favor the idea that the word padres includes both mom and dad, which I don't, how can we be sure that our students live with their mom and dad? Maybe they live with their grandparents or an aunt, an uncle, right? Another situation to reflect on, for instance, is whether we openly address situations of discrimination and bullying, or maybe we just keep quiet, silent, because we think it's something that children generally do. Yes, silence in these situations says a lot about our own biases and preconceptions. Another way in which CSC can be, well, I should say must be present is in the school organization. Two questions for you to reflect. How do we organize the attendance list? Are the boys first? And when we play a game, do we split groups into boys and girls and have them compete against each other? Yeah? Okay. And finally, we must not forget, as Pao said before, that one of the ultimate goals of CSC is the development and use of critical thinking skills. Yeah? And now, finally, we're going to see how we can help our students become critical and reflective thinkers.
All right, good. So let's move on now to the more practical side of the webinar that you're looking for, I'm sure. So, and it's your turn, because we will be asking you to do some very simple activities, right? And write the answers there in the chat box. So let's start with the first level of On the Pulse second edition, which is level starter. Okay. What we are seeing here is the picture of a family tree. Okay, it's a family tree that we all find in course books, right? And in this case, what students are required to do, as you can see there, is to identify the different family members in the family tree. And on the following page, students are presented with more vocabulary in terms of family members, and I would like to draw your attention here to all white people. Joaquin says, right? I would like to draw your attention here to the words stepfather, right, and half sister. They are not words that we usually find in course books. Of course, we have families with half sisters and stepfathers, and our students as well. So it's great that we see these words here in this list. And also at the bottom, in the comparing cultures section, students are asked to compare families in different countries in terms of size, right? Whether they are big or small. Remember that this is level starter. So our suggestion here is to go a bit further than this and help our students become critical thinkers, as Gabi said, by problematizing, challenging the concept of family. And how can we do that? Well, we can go back to the tree family that the book presents, and we can ask our students some questions. These questions that I'm going to ask you now, and I would very much like you to write the answers in the chat box, right, so that we can read you. So the first question, right, are all the families that you know, like this family here, do all the families that you know look like this family here?
No, everybody says no. Of course, no.
Of course not. Great. Good. So after you have worked with this with your students, of course, do take the opportunity to present more family members and more different types of families, right? Like same gender parents families or grandparents families, assembled families that somebody was asking here, okay? Childless families, all right? The second question, do all the people that you know look like the family members of the people in this family? Do all the people that you know look like the people in this
No,
family tree?
they say no.
No, okay. Well, you may even ask your students.
Somebody mentioned intersectionality there. Quite interesting.
Good. Right. Well, and you may even ask your students why. Okay, they don't look like the people they know. And the last question, which is the very important one, is why is it important that we see diverse families, different families, and also diverse people in those families? That's a question for your students and a question for you. So why is it important that we see diversity in terms of people and families?
They are writing here. Noelia says representation to avoid stereotypes because it is how life is. To know about others because it's perfectly normal. To be more realistic and respectful because the class cannot be out of reality. To learn to respect others. Okay.
Good.
To be open-minded and accept others. Excellent answer. Yes.
Great. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Of course, representation is important. Of course, representation matters. And in this sense, it's always a good idea to choose pictures, to bring pictures, right, together with the ones in the course book, pictures that show different families. Okay. For example, posters that we hang on the wall, right? But what we are doing here is slightly different. We are going beyond representation. What we are doing here through these simple questions is to restive problematize the concept of family. And we are doing this, we are restive problematizing the concept of family by critically reading an image that includes a family that is supposed to represent all families, okay? Restive problematizing is a term coined by Pennycook, Alastair Pennycook, that means to constantly look at the world around us, asking ourselves, why does this work this way? Why is it this way? Whose voices do we hear the loudest and whose voices are silenced? Being a restive problematizer, that's what we want our students to become, of course, means to continually question the underlying assumptions about the world and about language, okay, from a critical perspective. These assumptions that are socially constructed, socially transmitted, and that we take for granted, all right? In the booklet, in the digital booklet, you will find a glossary of terms, of key terms, including, of course, restive problematizing with the definition of those terms, as well as resources for you, teachers, to enlarge on them, okay? And in terms of the axis that we mentioned before, this suggestion, this intervention can be framed within the axis of respecting diversity, okay? Which in this case has to do, of course, with family, different family configurations, right? Because we are helping students to embrace diversity. We don't speak of tolerating diversity because there is nothing to tolerate. The idea here is to acknowledge and respect diversity because diversity is the rule. We are all different. Diversity is the rule, all right? It's not the exception. And also, Pulse magazine, which is the magazine that accompanies the different course books, right, on the Pulse second edition, has a great, very interesting article on the famous TV show, Modern Family, which describes same gender parent family. So there you have a fantastic resource to work with family configurations, right? And diversity as framed within these acts, all right? So as you can see, using these very simple questions, remember this is level starter, provides us with a great way of incorporating CSE content into our lessons, okay? Diversity is the rule, Luciana says, okay. Can you repeat that? Okay, what, Barbara? What would you like me to repeat? Where can we get all the materials you are talking about? The resource. Okay, it's the booklet that will, the CSE booklet that will accompany on the Pulse second edition, right? For all the teachers who adopt the course book, okay? These ideas are taken from the contents of the book, but of course you can apply them to your lessons as well, okay? Good. Let's move on.
Now I will show you some images, and I would like you to write in the chat box what comprehensive sexuality education content you think can be addressed using these images that I am going to show you now, okay? So here's the first one. There are 3 different images. Take a look at this. You can write, yes, in the chat box, what content do you think about the image? Okay, there's another here. As you can see, it's a
beauty,
catalog.
The concept of beauty,
Clothes.
body diversity, clothes.
Here's another.
Stereotypes. Beauty and race, that's very interesting. Body shape, diversity, eating habits, beauty, stereotypes, body, fashion, love yourself. Okay, good. Thank you. Bullying.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are going to move now to level 1. Pau was in level starter. Now we move to level 1 of On the Pulse second edition. And this is Unit 4, yes? Unit 4 presents the topic of clothes. And this online catalog that I'm sharing with you is introduced to work with reading comprehension skills. And with Pau, we thought that this is a great opportunity to reflect upon hegemonic bodies. Yes, this is another term that you will find in the glossary, okay? When we speak about female hegemonic bodies in our culture, at least, we refer to the idea of those picture-perfect bodies, that is, women who are white, young, tall, skinny, and usually blonde, right? And the notion of hegemonic bodies can very much affect our self-esteem and our health, okay, if they do not conform to the imposed beauty standards imposed and created by society, okay? And this is why we need to address this issue in our classes whenever the opportunity arises, okay? So our suggestion to work with this topic is that after you have dealt with the activities proposed for the catalog, you can discuss some questions with your students in order to problematize the catalog, as Pau did with the family tree, okay? Some of the questions you can discuss with your students, I will show them to you now, are these, okay? For example, are all sizes included in the online catalog? I don't know if you remember, but the catalog only includes SML, right? Another question. Well, you can have your students think about ads by popular clothing brands, okay? And ask them whether they show different bodies and sizes. Another question could be why. Here we are asking them to reflect, yes? Why is it important that all sizes, yes, are included, all sizes and all bodies, yes? Another question, and I ask you this question, do you know about the size law in Argentina? And here we are educating in rights. Remember what Pau said at the beginning, yes? We cannot exercise our rights if we don't know them, okay? We don't know them. So it is very important that we bring this information in the classroom and into the classroom, and this is a great opportunity. The size law in Argentina creates a system, let's say, that establishes a standardized measure for each size across the country. So, for example, size L will be the same in Buenos Aires and in Ushuaia, right? And it also establishes that all clothes shops must have all sizes not only available, but visible, okay? And the last question, can you answer this one in the chat box, please? Is there any other way in which bodies can be different? Can you tell me whether there are, apart from size, color, as we saw before in the catalog, can you tell me any other way in which people can, bodies, sorry, can be different?
Disabled people, no SS, hairstyles, abilities, personality, physically disabled, I'm sorry, but they are going too fast, height, disabled people, gender, age, skin problems.
Okay.
Birthmarks.
Look at this. Yes, look at this. This is another way in which bodies can be different. Yes. This, I will show you another. These are screenshots from a video from, Mariela will share the link with you now. I had forgotten about that. So you can watch the video later, yes? So these are screenshots from a video that was created to for a campaign to raise awareness about the acceptance and inclusion of people with disabilities. Yes, we'll be touching upon the topic of ableism. Pao will be talking about this later when we get to level 3. Okay, so with these questions, the questions I showed you before, we are working with the same topic from 2 different axes, right? The axe of respecting diversity and the one of exercising our rights. In the booklet, there are more resources, yes, such as this one and the catalogs we showed you before. There are more videos also. And well, as Paul said before, it is important that we bring pictures of diverse people into the classroom because our students are diverse, okay? And they want to see themselves represented in the material we bring into the classroom. And before I finish, Paul's magazine also presents a text on genderless clothes, which is a great opportunity to see this topic from even another perspective, another axe that is that of gender perspective, okay? Paul.
All right. Well, okay, so let's move on now to the following level, okay, before we run out of time. And we will play a little game, right? We will show you the images of some well-known people who have contributed greatly in different fields, okay? Gabi, do you have the slides? Don't see it, but okay, there. All right, so there you have the people, okay? So this is a little game. I'm going to tell you the number and you write in the chat box the name of that person, okay? So let's start with someone who I know, most of us know. That's number 3, okay? Who's number 3? Marie Curie.
Okay, Marie Curie, everybody's saying here, Marie Curie. Do you know her surname? Because we all know her by her husband's name. This is important. Somebody? Yes, she was Polish. Yes. Okay, yeah, Maria Słodowska. Okay, Maria Słodowska.
Yes,
thank you.
Maria Veronica.
Maria Veronica,
yes.
Thank you. You're right.
All right. What about number 2? I think somebody has mentioned it already. Him already. Number 2, Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder.
Okay, this U.S. blind singer and songwriter who is also an activist for different causes. And what about number 6? What about number 6? Stephen Hawking. Right, Stephen Hawking.
Very good.
All right, who despite his disability continued studying black holes. Good. What about number 4? Who knows number 4? Number 4. Okay, right.
We have an answer.
Great.
Yes, Marsha P.
Marsha
Johnson
P.
says.
Johnson.
Oh, I'm losing the name. Kekel, is that correct? Kekel, is that the correct
Marsha. Okay, right. Marsha was an African-American transgender woman who fought for the rights of LGBTQ plus people in the LGBTQ plus community. Okay, now let's change. I tell you the name and you tell me the number, so we make it fast. Okay, What about Alan Turing? What number is Alan Turing?
8. They all know him.
Good. So glad that you know him. He was a British mathematician and a logician who was responsible for breaking the Nazi Enigma code during World War II. And most importantly, he was chemically castrated for being gay, and he committed suicide because of that. Yes, there's a film about him, right? Yeah. Okay, what about Berta Cáceres?
7,
Good.
they say. 7, 7.
Yes, it's Berta's birthday today, okay? Berta Cáceres, number 7, right? She was a Honduran environmentalist, activist, and an indigenous leader who was killed in her home for defending the jungle. She would be turning 50 today if she was alive. Of course, she's not, so let us keep her work and her legacy alive.
Yes, yesterday was the anniversary of her death. 5 years ago.
Okay, good. So we have Berta. What about Temple Grandin? We have 2 numbers missing only, 1 and 5. So Temple Grandin? Yes.
1, they say.
She's a US scientist and university professor who is in the autistic spectrum, okay? And the last one that you see there is Rosaline Franklin. Rosaline Franklin contributed to the discovery of the molecular structure of DNA. But as you know, science has been traditionally dominated by men, so her 2 male partners got all the credit for this discovery, right? And she got nothing. So I told you before that these people have made great contributions to different fields. So that is one thing that they have in common. Now let's think together. What other thing do they have in common? What else do these people have in common? Can you tell me in the chat box? What else do these people have in common?
They were revolutionary. A disability, not everybody had a disability, but some of them, minorities, they were part of minorities, groundbreaking people, geniuses. They are human beings, yes, diversity, they were different. Oppression, I like that one.
Okay, yes, well, very good. So you're saying here, all of them represent groups or communities who have suffered discrimination one way or another, and in some cases, such as the case of Berta, right, in more than one way, because Berta was discriminated not only for being a woman, but also for being poor, for being a lesbian, for being indigenous, and for being an activist, right, an environmentalist activist. So this is a very clear example and concrete example of what we mean by intersectionality that somebody mentioned before. All right, so we have people from different communities here, right? These voices that we said, coming back to the definition of restive problematizing, that sometimes we don't hear that loud, okay? Unit 3 in this level, okay, has a very nice project at the end of the unit, which requires students to write a timeline, to create a timeline with the events, the main events in the life of an important or amazing person, okay? So our suggestion is this. Apart from the list that students are given in this quiz at the beginning of the unit, which is fantastic, because it is already diverse, our suggestion is to add more diversity, okay, to this list. But for example, including some of the people that we mentioned, right, that I said before, they belong to different communities. We have the LGBTQ plus community represented there. We have women in science. We have people with different disabilities, all right? So this is great, a great opportunity, right, to work with diversity as framed within one of the axes that we mentioned before. Because diversity in and out our classes is a reality that we cannot ignore. Representation matters. And why does it matter? Because as Gabi said before, when we bring diversity into our lessons, our students themselves see themselves, right, represented. And also because what our students, what we see around us can positively or negatively shape the expectations that we have for ourselves and that we have for others. So it's a diversity is an issue that must be addressed, okay, in our classes. So here we are sharing with you a very practical and easy way of incorporating CSD into something that has already been planned, right? Such as this beautiful unit on the PALS second edition. Okay, and Gabi, now we'll go on.
Okay, yes. Now we continue with level 2, but we move on to unit 6, that is entitled, as you can see, Take Care. And it deals with, this is great, because unlike many units on health, this is something typical we see in course books, this one deals with both physical and mental health. As you can see, the unit starts by presenting vocabulary in context. Our students will learn and practice vocabulary by reading these tips to stay healthy, both physically and mentally. Okay, and this is very, very important because millions of people are affected by mental illness and poor mental health, depression, and anxiety affect our students and the way they behave and interact with others. So it is important that we equip our students with a clear understanding of mental health and that we show them that mental health is as important as physical health. Okay, so what we propose here that you will find in the booklet is that apart from the vocabulary and information presented at the beginning of the unit, of Unit 6, you can discuss some myths and facts about mental health with your students with a true or false activity or myth and fact. And we will do this with you today, okay? I will show you now. You can answer in the chat box. Okay, so we took these, you have the source there. We adapted the information, okay? So this one goes, kids can't get depression and anxiety disorders, only adults can. What do you think? Is it a myth or a fact?
Myth, everybody is saying myth.
Exactly, yes. Mental health problems often begin during the school age year, so we need to address these topics. Let's see number 2. Most people diagnosed with mental illnesses are not violent. What do you think?
Fact. Okay, a couple of people say myth. Most people are saying fact.
It is a fact. Okay, mental health problems, carry a social stigma. Okay, and we tend to associate mental illnesses with violence, and it's not like that. Okay, so working with this information can help our students remove those stigmas, okay, and be open to speak about them. You will find more resources in the booklet, okay. There's a link to a bingo to work with well-being and everyday activities, and also there is a link to Centro de Asistencia al Suicida in Argentina, in order for us to learn more about the topic. Remember that suicide is the second cause of death among adolescents. And as teachers, we have the obligation and the opportunity to help prevent suicide. That is why it's necessary that we are familiar with the topic in case the need to address it arises. I know what you're thinking. Of course, we are not going to become experts in this topic because we are not psychologists, we are not psychiatrists, okay? But at least we should show ourselves open to these topics so our students feel they can trust us. And if needed, we can direct them to the people who will help them, okay? As Pau said before, this is a reality and we cannot ignore it, okay? And before I let Pau continue this for you to reflect, the worst mistake that we as teachers can make is to assume that somebody else will teach this. Okay, Pau?
Yes, many people are agreeing with us there in the chat. Of course, it is a very necessary and important topic that we need to address as well. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to the last level of On the Pulse second edition, right? In this case, we're talking about level 3, unit 3, which introduces the topic of adventure sports and activities, right? And at the same time, presents diverse realities through a text for a reading comprehension activity and the project at the end of the unit. At the end of the unit, right? In this text that we are seeing right now, we learn, for example, about the Syrian refugee who became an Olympic swimmer, okay? It's fantastic that we are reading and learning about the Syrian refugee, because refugees are members of those groups that we said that whose voices are generally silenced, okay? One of the groups that are generally underrepresented. So it's fantastic that this example is included in this text. And also, right, we learn about this diplegic motor cross racer, okay? That is the second part of the text. So we are working with the topic of sports and also different realities in the world of sports. But remember, let us remember that you don't need to have accomplished something in order to be represented, okay? Of course, this text is about the world of sports, okay? But as teachers, we need to take every opportunity we have to bring in images, texts, material about diverse people, well, in this case, people with disabilities, doing everyday activities, as we all do, right? We all brush our teeth, we all watch TV, we all read a book, okay? In the project of the unit, that is fantastic as well, that we will see here, students are required to choose a person who has overcome a difficulty in order to be interviewed for a radio program. And they are given a list of names, which is a great list of names because it's diverse. But what we particularly like about this list is that we have Argentinian people there, okay? We have Gustavo Fernandez, who is a wheelchair tennis player, and we have Daniela Jimenez as well. She's from Chaco, and she is a Paralympic swimmer, okay? So this unit gives us a fantastic opportunity to work with the topic of ableism in a very comprehensive and thorough way. In case you are not familiar with the term, ableism means any form of discrimination or prejudice against people with disabilities. Remember that in the booklet, you will find a glossary with these terms, right? For example, ableism and also ageism, which is another form of discrimination, in that case, based on age, all right? And also, you can work with the topic of ableism in Level Starter, Unit 5. Unit 5 deals with cities, description of cities. So in that case, for example, you can discuss with your students how friendly their cities are for disabled people. Another way of restive problematizing these concepts. So this is another easy and practical way of incorporating comprehensive sexuality education content into something that has already been planned, okay? Remember that the language can always be adapted to suit your learner's needs. These are suggestions, right? We are not focusing on language here, but we are focusing on those critical thinking skills, okay, that are important for our students to develop and use, okay? And now Gabi will finish with this practical part.
Yes, I promise this is the last one and we finish, okay? Of course, we celebrate that Macmillan has included this material on the PAL second edition, yes? We continue now with level 3, but we move to unit 5, sorry, which is called Today and Tomorrow, and it presents vocabulary about science and space travel. As you can see from the title, this text is about routines in space, but it shows the routine of a male astronaut. Almost 90% of astronauts have been men. Of the 566, listen to this, 566 people who have ever traveled to space, only 65 have been women. Our girls and teenagers, our adolescents, need to see role models and examples to follow, especially in these areas which have been traditionally dominated by men. Okay, so one possibility here, what we thought of to accompany this text, is to enrich it by showing our students examples of the same routine in space. but followed by female astronauts. Okay, now Mariela will share the link to this video. I will show you just some screenshots, okay? So you can copy and paste it, yes. This is a video from the International Space Station, yes, and it shows these two astronauts, Christina Koch and Jessica Meyer, and their daily routine. You will see them washing their hair, doing exercise, preparing dinner, among other things. The same vocabulary that is presented in the text appears in the video. So you can continue working with language here, but you will be showing women, okay? And you can also, for example, freeze the video, the image, and ask your students, what is she doing? What are they doing? And you will be working with the present continuous, right? In the booklet, there are other resources as well to continue working with trailblazing women in space and flight as well, okay? I'm sure you will come up with lots of interesting ideas for exercises to work with language, listening comprehension, speaking activities, or writing activities, okay? If you remember the 5 axes that we discussed earlier, this intervention can be framed within the axis of acknowledging gender perspective, okay? According to the UNESCO, and I finish, just 30% of the world's researchers are women. And it's highly probable that our girls have been told before they were 12 or 11 that they are not good at math or that they are not good at science. So their interest in those areas drop, okay? So we need to bring more examples, more role models into the classroom to encourage our students, okay? We need to address these topics in our classes to help narrow the gender gap. Okay, we're running out of time. Let me quickly tell you what else you will find in the booklet, okay? And I promise we finish. You will find some information about CSE at an international landscape. You will find, international level, sorry. You will find information about CSE in Argentina. Frequently asked questions, some of which we dealt with today. You will find the glossary, Pao mentioned before, and then you have the section for ideas and resources for different units in each level. So you have ideas for the 4 course books, starter 1, 2, and 3, okay? And then you have a section for projects, 1 project for every level of On the Pulse 2nd edition, okay?
So
you're silent. Oh, okay.
Yes, right. Before we move on to the question and answer section, let's round off, okay? So today, as we have been discussing, right, it's really easy to integrate CSE into our lesson plans, into On the Pulse 2nd edition, and CSE also makes our classes more interesting because, as we said, the topics, the content that CSE covers is related to students' needs and interests, okay? And through the different examples and ideas that we have shared with you today, as well as the ones you will find in the booklet, we showed you strategies to help our students develop and use critical thinking skills, right? To become restive problematizers. So all in all, CSE contributes to creating this much needed change that I'm sure all of us want to see in the world to create a more equitable and fair society for all of us, okay? So thank you for joining us. And well, if you have any questions, you can write there in the chat box. And if not,
yes, we're going to invite Mariela now back, and
yes,
she will share the last link to a very short survey. I promise it's less than a minute, 30 seconds. You will answer it. It's information for us, feedback, okay, on the webinar that will help us, okay, reevaluate what we have done today. So thank you very much for being here with us today.
Yes, and thank you for the comments in the chat box. Thank you. Okay, Mari's back.
Yes, hi, hello, I'm back. Let me check if I have Wait a second. I don't know if I have shared
Share the link.
for the...
Yes, I can see it, Mariela. Yes.
Is it there? Sorry, there are so many. Yes, okay, great. Well, again, thank you very much. I think it has been an insightful and a brilliant presentation. I don't know if you have noticed, but what was going on in the chat was incredible, because everybody was commenting and sharing their experiences. And I think that this is what we need, yes, to work together, because this topic is controversial. We need to share what we are doing in the classrooms. And so I think this was great, marvelous talk. Yes, very enlightening. And I should have said that at the beginning, to be honest, that this booklet is part of On the Pulse second edition series. So when you adopt the series, you get access to Teachers Resource Center, where you can download this booklet. Yes, it's not something that we are going to sell separately. Yes, it's part of the adoption pack for teachers. So I really encourage you to adopt our series, to be able to have this material. And as many people said, it's brilliant example. And it also shows how we can exploit the activities. Yes, because these are baby steps, but we need to start taking those steps. Yes. And On the Pulse second edition, we have also included some worksheets for special education needs accommodation. Yes, so we have included one project per unit. Apart from all the grammar and vocabulary I told you at the beginning, we have included all these current topics, yes, to really work on inclusivity and diversity, yes, and addressing our students' needs. Yes, so thank you very much. It was great. I don't know if there is any other question. Yes, very enlightening, and yes, it was marvelous. Yes, okay, all right. Científicas de acá, they recommend TV programs, videos. It's great. Yes. So remember that if you want to participate in the raffle, please send a post on your media, on your social media, a screenshot of the webinar. Mention Macmillan, and then you will enter the raffle. And what about the booklet? Well, Karina, Karen, sorry. It's part of the adoption pack for On the Pulse second edition. Yes, in the Teachers Resource Center, you will find the booklet, and also digital literacy. We are also working on that. So it's a very, very complete series for higher primary and secondary. Yes. Last but not least, we are going to send you a certificate of attendance within 7 working days. Please check your spam folder in case it goes there. Yes, if not, please drop us an email. I will share our contact details. Yes, here you have all our contact channels, Facebook, Instagram, and emails, and the webpage. And we are also going to send the links that Paola and Gabriela mentioned as part of the follow-up email. And we are also going to upload this talk onto our YouTube channel very soon. Yes? Okay. They are asking for your Instagram account, Paola.
I'm going to share the in English, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube channel.
Great.
Yes,
great.
There you will find resources as well, right? Many resources and ideas that we generally upload there.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, let's call it an afternoon. Thank you very much, everyone. We have a huge audience. Thanks, Paola and Gabriela.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope to see you all soon. Yes. All the best. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.